Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm here today with Rachel Rosenberg. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're very pleased to have you on. You have an incredible story that you want to share with us today. And Rachel comes to us after actually having gone through therapies here in our clinic. I believe you were a patient with Dr. George in our Wooddale clinic and had great experience and wanted to kind of share your story and how you got here. So oops, go ahead.
No, I'm so blessed and thank you for having me and allowing me to share. And D- Dr. George and everyone that you're a part of literally gave me my life back. And I mean, they're the best people and they were such a blessing. So, do you want me to share kind of how?
Yeah. How did you end up coming to our office?
So it was definitely divine intervention.
Mhm.
It was an accident that caused me to be in the situation but there are no accidents. And when I so I always wanted to surf or snowboard, and I met someone who was a snowboarder. I was never a winter girl. I'm a beach girl, and
Mhm.
I decided I was going to learn how to snowboard at 52 years old. And
Mhm.
I'm very stubborn. And over a 4-day weekend of solid ice and not good conditions, um, I hit my head 500 times on the ice, bracing my fall with my elbows because my tailbone was already too sore from falling over there.
Mhm.
And every time I would fall, I would smash my head, and I had a helmet on. And they told me when I got my equipment, prepare to fall hundreds of times. So I just thought it was part of the program
Yeah.
and came home. The last fall, I literally felt my molars, and I said, "Okay, I'm done."
Mhm.
But that was 4 days in, and I came back to home. I have 3 kids, and I was working as vice president of a finance company. And 5 days after, I all of a sudden was not comprehending what was happening around me. And I don't know how I got downtown that day. I live up north,
Mhm.
and it was just where most of my clients were. And I couldn't get home. I was so tired.
Mhm.
Um, the next day, and so, anyways, I ended up in the emergency room just so my mom would leave me alone.
Mhm.
And she kept telling me to get a CAT scan. And back, when we were little, when I was little, if you had a concussion, you couldn't go to sleep, and they would look at your pupils.
Mhm.
So they told me I'd have results in 45 minutes, and 45 seconds, someone we've never seen threw open the door in the emergency room and said, "Who's picking up your son? There's an ambulance downstairs. We're taking to trauma center."
Mhm.
And I still had no idea. I mean, he told me my brain was bleeding and drew a picture on the gurney. And I got out of ICU, and thankfully they were able to stop the bleed and put me with one of the top neurologists.
Mhm.
And while I was in the ICU, my personal trainer at the time was texting me, "You have to watch the movie Concussion."
Mhm.
And I couldn't really look at the screen, so I'm not sure when that occurred, but it's the true story, if, for those of you that don't know, of 12 football players in the NFL who had the same injury as I did, and they committed suicide.
Mhm.
So by the time I got to the neurologist, they were really recommending medicine. And um, I was too afraid after seeing that movie. to go on any medicine. And then they had me in physical therapy, like crazy, making, even if you didn't have a head injury, on an elliptical with a
Mm-hmm.
laser beam on my forehead, trying to focus on a checkerboard of A to Z and 1 through 60, taped on a football game, like full
Yeah,
wall. And
it's a
I was
lot.
crazy. I was going crazy. And
Yeah.
finally I said, I'm not doing any of this. It's making me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a boxing at the time as
Mm-hmm.
my exercise. And I thought it would be good for hand-eye coordination. And I couldn't drive far, but I could get there.
Mm-hmm.
And one day home, I couldn't smile on my way back from boxing. And my father told me to pull over and told me I was having a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And someone had sent me a picture of Dr. George's card months before. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of done in my head that I wasn't going to go to any more neurologists. But when I saw that he was holistic,
Mm-hmm.
more, um, that's kind of my interest anyways. And I pulled over on the side of the road, called him, and an hour and a half later, I was his patient. He said, I know I can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the only caveat was that I do not live near Wooddale where he was, and I needed
Mm-hmm.
to come every day, for for a while.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the blessings that came out of my experience. My snowboard is in my living room because so many
Mm-hmm.
blessings and lessons.
Yeah.
But I had to ask my 80-year-old father to take me
Mm-hmm.
and drive 45 minutes, wait 3 hours or whatever the time was, and then drive me back home and then go get my kids. Because once I was done, I was like in another world of amazing, relaxed. And my dad, literally 3 days in, I had always been very independent
Mm-hmm.
and never asked for help and was so proud of being so self reliant, but I wasn't able to do this alone. And my dad said, I see a difference literally in the third day in. He said, your
Mm-hmm.
word retrieval, your conversation, you're starting to sound like you already.
Mm-hmm.
And also that I had given him the biggest gift by asking for him. Here, I thought it was imposing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you've given me purpose in one of the toughest times in my life. And, you know, my kids and we all became very close because we were literally together almost every day.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. And to this day, I've had subsequent concussions, and which I learned is not uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm rebuilding my life. It's been, I want to say, close to 3 years, just over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have peaks and valleys,
Sure.
but whenever I have a valley, I come out to see you guys and
Yeah.
and get back on track again.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that somebody sent you our card and you were linked up with us and you've had such a good experience coming here. And that's great that you were able to reconnect with your father and your kids in such a deep way. You kind of alluded to, you get a lot of blessings out of this. And we tend to talk a lot on this show about how important support systems are, and you are a walking testimony to how important that actually is for other people in your situation. Like, would you have been able to do this without your support system?
No, no. And I had always been the breadwinner in my family, and I have 3 children I mentioned, and I had
Hmm.
never been a stay-at-home mom.
Hmm.
I worked a lot of hours because after I financed a restaurant or a nightclub, or I had to be there to support them.
Hmm.
And it was another blessing. It was, now they're teenagers, and I was able to be a stay-at-home mom, not by choice initially, but they they still want to hang out with me, and that was, such a big compliment because they weren't used to me ever being home.
Mhm.
And so it took everything to the next level, and really made a big impact. And I just, I was trying for so hard to get back to where I was. And when I finally just sort of surrendered to, I'm never going to be the same. And I don't know if you've ever heard that saying that sometimes when the lesson doesn't go away until you learn the lesson, or it comes
Mhm.
back like louder. I
Mhm.
think that somebody was telling me, like, slow down, like,
Mhm.
stop being so 24/7, which I had been my whole life. And
Yeah.
so it has been a tremendous blessing. The support system, I don't know how I would have done it. I mean, even now, I have still a few, lingering issues that come up. Nothing that I miss, like
Mhm.
driving all over the place, or group texting or emails. But
Mhm.
even now, I'll have to reach out to my kids, and my long-term memory is amazing. But a lot of times, if you tell me something, I might ask you the same thing again.
Mhm. Yeah.
But, all the therapies and
Mhm.
the staff and, Dr. George, and just
Mhm.
the other thing that was so amazing about my experience with Dr. George and everybody there
Mhm.
was that everybody, no matter what the explanation was or what the therapy was, everyone spoke to you. Not only are you not understanding because you're the patient and they're the doctor, or therapist, but
Mhm.
but you also have a brain injury. So for
Mhm.
me, the processing, and I never left there not knowing what was happening or feeling misunderstood, or
Mhm.
a lot of common things that I think happen to people when they're in
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we hear that all the time. And a lot of people who come into us just say that they feel like no one's actually listening to them, no one actually believes them. A lot of times people kind of are told that whatever's going on in their life, the symptoms that they're experiencing are really all in their head, which we kind of joke about, like, yes, they are in your head, just maybe
Yeah.
not in the context that they're implying. But
Yeah. It's
um
hard, I think. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
yeah.
I think, I'm actually, my goal last year in overcoming all of this was I wanted to do a TED Talk.
Hmm.
And it didn't ultimately end up to be about the injury, but I, by no coincidence, probably doing my original TED Talk that I had written out in hopes of inspiring hope in somebody else, and belief and faith. And because they told me, you have a fatal injury, have your will sent to the trauma center before you get there. Like, I didn't think I was, they were telling me I wasn't going to make it. And,
Hmm.
and I just got to that point where I'm like, no, I am definitely going to make it. Like, this is not the hill, no pun
Yeah.
intended, I'm going to die on. But
Hmm.
I think what's the toughest part is it's an invisible injury. You're not
Yeah.
walking around in a wheelchair, and you don't have, something on you where people know right away that you have something to overcome, or,
Hmm.
a setback, or a handicap. And I think that's the trickiest part,
Hmm.
but you just gotta fight, and believe, because literally, even now, I'm actually, Dr. George gave me an opportunity to rebuild my life, and I believe that I'm here through everything to help other people, which has always been what I've lived for, but on another level right now.
Hmm.
And because you can't listen to what people tell you. You have to decide in yourself,
Yeah.
I think, because I could have given up and I don't know what would have happened. I could have been
Yeah.
home, and because the prognosis, if I did a lot of research just recently to do this talk,
Mhm,
and if, going down the normal avenues
mhm,
is a lot of times people end up never being able to work, not having any life. My
mhm.
life is very different, but it's never been more full or meaningful.
That's great. That's great. And you've mentioned kind of how you went down a few different paths. You tried, PT that was recommended, someone recommended medication. Obviously, you tried us and found good success here. How would you, I guess, compare the different approaches from your perspective? What was the difference that we offered you?
Well, when I was doing all these other things through the, how do you say it, more
Hmm.
traditional routes, I was feeling like I was going crazy. I mean, literally. And when I reflect back on that movie, I you don't want to kill yourself, but you need to stop the insanity. Like you literally feel like you're going crazy.
Hmm.
And so I would leave the doctor's office, I would leave the physical therapy feeling like I was gonna, I didn't know if I was gonna make it or not.
Hmm.
And how I was gonna drive home. And but I would leave Dr. George's office and so calm.
Hmm.
So I mean, I we had like an unspoken rule that after leaving you,
Hmm.
uh, that like I couldn't really talk, to engage. Not that I couldn't, but I was like finally comfortable and not feeling cuckoo,
Hmm.
and calming, and I learned through all of the amazing people that you have that are associated with you that they were stimulating the parasympathetic system, so they were calming everything down, where the other places I was getting so amped up.
Hmm.
and and my mom would go get the prescriptions and bring them home, and all I had to do was read the side effects, and I was like, I was too afraid.
Yeah. Did you find that you had any negative side effects while you were coming through us?
No,
And
no,
no.
I mean, I didn't, it really affected my food. I
Hmm.
had food sensitivities,
Hmm.
and it really took everything to another level. My accident, not the therapy.
Hmm.
But what was amazing about that is nobody else got that. And
Hmm.
they were saying that it's one has nothing to do with the other. And I share health and wellness. That was something I had lived for and got me through, that I
Hmm.
was able to do it, was to help other people in their health and wellness while I was getting better.
Hmm.
And um, Dr. George recognized that right away. And then there was Christy and
Hmm.
Dr. Mike to
Yeah, yeah.
it was like not only did he understand, but it was like, oh well, guess what? That will be next. That's another part of the program. So every piece of the puzzle, and in I'm relaunching my life, my business, so many things right now. And people are telling me, "Are you crazy? What are you doing?" And to do this now and to do this in your situation. And I've always kind of been like that. I think that's how I got here. But in addition, once you've had that experience, like a near
Hmm.
death experience, I feel like, I'm not waiting for the perfect moment or situation like inspiration or desperation.
Hmm.
I no regrets. And Dr. George, even with me going across the country,
Hmm.
is telling me like, come back in. He gives you tools.
Hmm.
So, you know, holistic, natural tools. And you know what? They work,
Yeah.
you know, from an app to peppermint oil on, you know,
Hmm.
the roof of your mouth, or, you know, when you're in crazy situations. And it's just given me even bigger of a blessing and opportunity to help other people, because it's mental health awareness month, right?
Hmm.
This month.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I, you know, my long-term goal, if anybody's listening and wants to be a part of this, is I would love, as I'm rebuilding a business in, you know, try in to empower other people, you know, to reclaim
Mhm.
their power and their possibility and their positivity, no matter what the circumstances are. I feel that, what I was going to say.
That's okay. That's okay. So I was actually going to ask, well, now I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm
Um,
rubbing off on you.
right. What was I going to say? Well, I did want to ask about, you've kind of mentioned how you've taken this life experience that most people would probably consider, you know, such a negative thing, and you've kind of repackaged it and repurposed it. And like you said, you're starting to advocate and coach other people who are going through similar things, and hopefully helping to kind of expedite their healing process so that they don't have to go through all the pitfalls and the kind of the struggles that you may have had to go through yourself. Is that right?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And what I was going to say is, so many people with everything that's happened over the past few years, and for some is still happening, you know, mental illness has increased. But I think that what I never had any depression or anxiety, or, you know, what some people live with every day. And that was another blessing, was, um, I have some people in my life that have obstacles that
Hmm.
most people, you know, live with every day. And it turned my frustration into compassion. I mean,
Hmm.
now when I meet somebody who has a child that is overcoming anything, so many things, or an adult, but
Yeah.
I have so much compassion now, because, my goal, what I was starting to say before, is I really want to start uh, um, a nonprofit as an extension of some of the other things that I'm doing and planning, and, you know, making happen, in to with a portion of the proceeds of what I'm creating, to go towards helping people who have mental illness that came from a traumatic brain injury.
Hmm.
I meet so many people, Joe, that will say, "Oh, my husband has one and he hasn't left the house in years, or he's on disability," or, you know. And I think it's so easy when someone says to you,
Hmm.
"We're sorry, but this is going to be your life now." No,
Yeah.
do not let somebody tell you what you're capable of, you know.
Hmm.
I think it's a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always someone out there who can help, and if you think you've tried everything, I promise you have not.
You have
um
not, right?
yeah.
You have not. And I also really advocate, and it, you know, no judgment on people. I know that there's a time and a place, um, for medicine, but, you know, to be able to do it naturally, because with all that, the medicine, then you other side effects and, you know, symptoms, and to be able to do it, you know, and so easily, you know,
Hmm.
and just as quickly. Like, people don't believe me. They're like, "Come on." I'm like, "I'm not kidding. Put peppermint." You know, I carry it with me in my purse. And even, you know, my mom is, and just people close to me that usually wouldn't listen to me, but they're
Hmm.
listening now. So
Yeah.
I think you can't be afraid to ask for help. And I think whatever situation you're in, no matter how bad it is, you have to think to your find the lesson and the blessing.
Yeah.
I think often it's in hindsight. It's not that easy to be there when you're like, in ICU and they're telling you they're going to shave your head. But there's I'm moving from a house into a teeny tiny apartment across the country. And you know what? As small as my apartment is, that snowboard is coming with me,
Mhm.
because that I look at it, all day, every day when I'm working and when I'm with family and friends. And you just have to celebrate every single day.
Yeah, that's your motivation. This is probably a good place to actually wrap things up. Um, so Rachel, we are just about out of time. So do you have any final words of hope or wisdom or encouragement for maybe your past self that may be listening right now?
I think that at just being able to embrace wherever you are, for sure, and have compassion for yourself. I
Mhm.
kept beating myself up, like, why is this happening, getting so frustrated. But and allow yourself to be vulnerable and share what's happening, because I think that it's made my relationship so much deeper, because instead of always trying to like do the most and be the best, and it's not even possible. There's no such thing as perfection. And I don't know if it's appropriate, because I didn't ask you in advance, but you can cut this part off if it's not.
Yeah.
But I really would love to offer whoever is listening and is feeling somewhat like maybe there was something positive in this that they took away,
Mhm.
that I have created a blueprint that I call a blueprint to reclaim your power and possibility. And it's a lot of things that I learned throughout the process working with all of you. And I would love to share it if anybody is interested. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a gift, and I would love to share it because I still use it
Mhm.
in my ongoing, because this will be ongoing, and I'm okay with that. But it's a tool that maybe could help other people, and if it's okay.
Yeah, we would love to have that and share it with our listeners and our viewers. So thank you for the generous gift.
Oh, it's so important to me to pay it forward now.
Mhm.
And it's so if they go to rachelroselive.com, it's a work in progress. But again, I am gonna overcome this and hopefully be an example for other people that they can do something too.
Mhm.
And if you go to the coaching, it they can click on coaching, and then under there they can grab it, and hopefully maybe help them or someone they know.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
on today, sharing your story, sharing words of encouragement for our listeners who are going through what you went through right now. I wish you the best moving forward. Good luck with your move. Good luck
Thank
with,
you.
all the great work that you're doing to help out our listeners and other people. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Joe.
Of course, anytime, anytime. So, from the Neural Wellness Podcast, this has been your host, Dr. Joe. Be well.